All right. Good morning. Let me turn the timer on. We remember that one time when I didn't, right? All right. So this is January, and in the month of January, what we do as a center and what centers all around the nation and actually all around the world in the Centers for Spiritual Living do in the month of January is we review the first 4 chapters of our textbook, The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And the first 4 chapters really are the overview of the entire philosophy. And the chapters are the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. And last week, Reverend Michelle did the first one, which is the thing itself. The thing itself being it, capital I, it. The thing itself, it, the creative energy, the one mind, the only power, the unlimited source of all. That was last week. And by the way, if you miss any of these 4 talks, you can go to our website and click down to the bottom of the front page and you'll see something that says podcast. And that's where years worth of talks are, and so you can catch up on any of the ones that you miss. But anyway, so this is the second week, and we're going to talk this week about the way it works. And these are the basic ideas, and I love doing it. I mean, we've been doing this as the centers for decades, every January. And it forces us to go back to the basics, to relearn it all over again. Because have you noticed that when you relearn something, it's like when you reread a book that you loved 20 years ago, and then you pick it back up and think, I want to reread that. And you reread it, and the things that you highlighted 20 years ago might be different than the things you highlight now. And that's what this does for us, is it allows us to go deeper and deeper and deeper every single time. The thing I should mention first is, the topic is the way it works. Why is this important? Why is it important for us to realize the way it works? Well, he says right here on page 36, I photocopied the pages, because that's a heavy book. This is a big, heavy book. He says right here, he says, the original life is infinite. It's all good. However, if we don't realize what that infinite life is, if we don't realize that the Creator is unlimited, and that it works in a very specific way, a creative process, if we don't realize what the creative process is, he says, then we are not using it correctly. We are always using it, but we're not using it correctly. He says, in our ignorance of it, we misuse the highest power we possess. And so great is this power, so complete is our freedom in it, so absolute the domain of law through it, that the misuse of this power has brought upon us the very conditions from which we suffer. Listen to this line. He says, we are bound because we are first free. Check that out. We are bound because we are first free. The power which appears to bind us is also the only power in the entire universe which can free us. The thing then works for us by working through us and is us always, but it can become power to us only when we recognize it as power. So it is vital, he says in this chapter, that we understand how the thing itself, all caps, works. Because when we see how it works, then we can begin to use it consciously. I had somebody in class years ago say to me, I don't like it when you say that we can use the thing consciously. That just sounds so weird. It sounds so selfish that we can use the thing consciously. And I said, I think actually not using the thing consciously is the selfish thing. Because when we know how the law works for the all that there is, the one mind, then we can begin using it not just to make our lives better, but to make everyone's lives better, to make life better, to make the world better. What could be more important than that? So it's important for us to do it. Now, so now we're at how it works. Where do we begin? Where do we begin with that? He says this. I mark the page. Wait, it's page 38. Sorry. For those of you with the textbook, it's page 38. And he has one line in here, which I've highlighted, and the line is this: when a farmer plants a seed, he invokes the law. When a farmer plants a seed, he invokes the law. Ernest Holmes loved to explain the way that the one mind works using the metaphor of the seed. It's all over the Science of Mind textbook, and I would almost challenge people to find one book by Ernest Holmes that does not use his metaphor of the seed. He talks about the seed being the mind, or the thing that it is we want, the definite thing, the goal, the vision, the idea. The idea is the seed. And then he said you take the seed and you plant it in the soil being the subconscious mind. Napoleon Hill, one of his contemporaries who wrote Think and Grow Rich, he didn't call it the subconscious mind, he called it the ethers, which is a great old-fashioned word for it. We plant the thing, the seed, into our subconscious mind, into the ethers. It goes into the world itself, and since everything is one thing, it's all connected, it goes everywhere into that creative soil, and then it becomes the plant. That's what the chapter's about. And he uses that metaphor. I've always thought it'd be great if we could take these great science of mind principles and put them into children's books so that children can learn these principles and in such an easy way, and maybe even adults can learn them then, because if it's simple and put simple enough in a children's book, maybe we could understand it as well. Imagine my surprise when a couple weeks ago a colleague of mine said, I was out shopping and I saw this book and I thought you might enjoy it, and handed it to me, and it was a kid's book. And it was a kid's book called The Carrot Seed. Who knows of this book? Just a few hands. The Carrot Seed. Well, this book is written by a woman named Ruth Krause. She wrote a lot of children's books, kind of was famous in her time, and it was illustrated by a man named Crockett Johnson. And he's famous, most famous, for being the illustrator of another children's book called Harold and the Purple Crayon. How many of you know that one? A lot of people do, yeah. So this was Ruth's best-selling book. It has sold millions of copies. It's still in print, and it originally was published in 1945, just 8 years after this edition of The Science of Mind came out. I don't know if Ruth knew Ernest or had read this book or was part of any of the centers back at that time, but when you read this book, it's like reading the chapter the way it works. But she does it in a total of 101 words. So guess what? I'm going to read Ruth's book to you. And we're going to understand this concept in a new way, all right? So Ruth, okay, so the first thing, the first page, and I'm going to try to walk around so you guys can see it. The first page goes like this. A little boy planted a carrot seed. A little boy planted a carrot seed. Okay? Within those 7 words are 3 really big concepts that are Science of Mind concepts. The first is a little boy. Now, if you read The Science of Mind, again, or of any of Ernest Holmes' books, you'll find that he says over and over that we must enter into the philosophy as a child, not leaving our reasoned mind out, but not letting it be the controlling part of how we enter into the philosophy. We need to enter into it as a child would, like Jesus said, and be ye as little children, because little children don't have the limits that we do as we grow up. So we enter into it. A young boy is the metaphor for that young child within us that is still filled with wonder, that still is in awe of life, and still believes that anything is possible. I remember when my kid was little, he's 13 now, but when he was just a little boy, oh my gosh, it was so fun to see. Those of you who have been around little kids or parents, you know what I'm talking about, right? Because the world is open to them. Everything is just like, oh, of course. Something else happens. Of course it does. Why not? Why wouldn't it? And we were playing one day, and I was so happy to play with him, just the glee and joy. And just for whatever reason, I just said, hey, Rafi, let's hop like bunnies. And he said, okay. And he put down what he was doing, and he started hopping like a bunny with me. Within 2 seconds, he was hopping like a bunny. He did not say, why are we going to hop like a bunny? He did not say, why a bunny? Why not something else? Why does it have to be a bunny? I like other animals better. He did not say, well, I'm going to look silly. What if the neighbors see us? Or what if I can't do it? All those things that our reasoned mind would tell us to do. And if I said to David, hop like a bunny, well, David probably would just do it. See, there he goes. But if we said it to our Aunt Susie or Uncle John, the first thing they're going to say to us is, why do you want me to do that? So enter into it like a young child. A young boy, he planted a seed. Well, I just told you, that's the metaphor that Ernest Holmes talked about with the way it works. We take the idea, we take the definite decision, we take the definiteness of what we want or who we want to be, and we plant it. That's what he did. He took his seed and he planted it. And the third main idea from it is he didn't just plant any old seed. He planted a carrot seed. Why do you think he planted a carrot seed? Because he wanted a carrot. He did not want a rutabaga. Nobody really wants a rutabaga. Nobody really wants beets. People do like carrots, and he wanted a carrot. So he planted a carrot seed, a specific seed. So what happened next? So I know when I've planted things in my life, and I've said, I'm going to do this, there are a few people around me that support me, and that's why we come here, is because we support each other. We are around people who will support each other no matter what crazy idea we have. We'll say, that's great. But have you ever had the experience where you say, I'm going to do this, and people around you are not quite as supportive of that? Yes. Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way calls those people wet blanket matadors, because they want you to come to them, and then you come to them with the ideas, and then they throw their wet blanket on top of you. I call them the naysayers. So the young boy plants a carrot seed, and what happens? His mother said, I'm afraid it won't come up. Now, his mother is probably not a terrible person. She probably was just worried. Maybe she didn't think that was the right soil, or maybe she thought it was the wrong time of year to plant a carrot seed, or maybe she thought he's not old enough to follow through with it. Whatever the reason is, she's probably doing it, or she might be doing it out of a protectiveness. Sometimes the people around us will say, are you sure you really want to do this? You don't really finish things very often. Or is this another harebrained idea that you have? Or something like that. And they're doing it in a sense to try to protect us from disappointment sometimes. But according to the science of mind, we have to keep moving through. So what happened next to the boy? His father said, I'm afraid it won't come up. Now, maybe his father did not want a son who planted carrot seeds. Maybe his father did not want a son who planted. I don't want a gardener for a son. I want a son who does something. I want a son who follows in my footsteps. Sometimes we allow ourselves to be limited by the expectations of those around us, of who they think we should be. But the science of mind says we've got to move right through it. Hold fast to the vision. And his big brother said, it won't come up. And sometimes people are just mean. Sometimes people do not have your best interest at heart. Sometimes you're going to encounter people who are going to try to spoil the vision. Now, I don't know why they always do that. Maybe they don't like us. Me, maybe, but I suspect sometimes that when we have a vision or when we begin to reveal who we are, that sometimes that light is so bright that it sometimes scares other people and it reminds them that they're not doing that very thing. So instead of being inspired by it, which most people would be, but a few people, instead of being inspired by it, they want to be the wet blanket. They want to throw the water on the flame, right? But we are to continue moving forward. How do we do that? Next page. Every day, the little boy pulled up the weeds around the seed and sprinkled the ground with water. Every day, the little boy pulled up the weeds around the seed and sprinkled the ground with water. Every day means every day. Every day we have to stay steadfast to the vision that we've planted, to the idea that we planted, to the me that I want to be every day. If we say, I want to be abundant today, and the next day we go to the grocery store and say, oh, I can't really afford anything, we are not in congruence with the idea that we've just put forward. Every day we have to live in that same space. And he pulled up the weeds around the seed, which means that's the moment when we think, wait a second, is being prosperous or being abundant equal to, I can't afford this, I can't afford anything? No, that's a weed. Pull that up. Change that. I choose not to spend my money in this way, my abundant money. We change things around. We do that with whatever it is, if it's a health, if it's financial, relationship, or just who we want to be in the world. We align everything. And he sprinkled the ground with water. He did that because he kept the ground fertile and supple so that the seed would have the best environment in which to grow. That's why we do spiritual practice. That's why your workshop's going to be so great for the people who come, is because we allow our lives to be completely aligned with the principles and the ideas that we want, which allows the fertile ground of who we are to be made manifest by life. It makes it easier for life to work through us and as us, as he said, if we make the ground of our life easier to work with. Now, we've done all the right things. We've done everything the right way. And so, what happens? Of course, wait, nothing came up. Nothing came up. Have you ever had that where you think you've done all the right things, you're using it in the way it works, and you think, oh, of course, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm doing it all the right way, and I'm praying, I'm meditating, I'm aligning. Where is the thing? Well, sometimes it's not our timing, it's life's timing. And if we don't hold fast to the truth and hold strong in our faith of what it is that it is we want, we're missing the fact that life, because everything is one thing, is realigning itself completely for the thing to happen. Now, we have very good senses of time, but life has a better sense. So, and nothing came up again. He's still waiting. Turn the page, and everyone kept saying, it won't come up. As you continue along, there might be those wonderful people who come up to you and say, I told you. I told you. And in fact, the person who might say it the most to you is yourself. See, I knew it wasn't going to be true for me. See, this works for Donald, but it doesn't work for me. I must be doing it wrong. All that stuff. No, we got to go right back to that possibility within us, the small child within us, and hold fast to the truth. Like he did. He still pulled up the weeds around it every day and sprinkled the ground with water. He stayed fast to the thing that it is that he wanted. And then, one day, what do you think happens? The rutabaga? No. A carrot came up. When we hold fast to the truth, to the vision, the way it works, Ernest Holmes reminds us in the second chapter of The Science of Mind, is when we hold fast, when we stay true, when we pull the weeds, when we keep the ground fertile, and we keep going despite all the naysayers outside or inside of us, it will happen. And for the boy, not only did it happen, but you turn the page, he brought a wheelbarrow. And the carrot is even bigger than the wheelbarrow that he brought. Because when we hold fast, one of the base beliefs of everything that I believe is that whatever we think for ourselves, life always has a bigger belief, always has a bigger idea, always wants more for us than we want for ourselves. So when we stay open to the process and stay open to the infinite, then life now can move through us. Life now can bring us not just what it is we want, but better, bigger. Who has had that experience happen to them? Many of you, most of you, almost all of you. If you had that experience, this is the way we do it. This is the way to have it again. If you've not had that experience, come to the workshops, come to the classes, and become to inhabit these teachings in a way like you never have before. The thing itself is all of life, infinite, perfect in all ways. And the way it works, seed, soil, plant. So we don't just know that. Let's enact that in our life. I'm going to read to you my favorite treatment in the entire book of The Science of Mind. Over 650 pages. There's my favorite of all the pages. If you care, it's on page 556. And it's called The Gifts. There it is. The gifts of God are mine today. So let's enact this. Let's be part of the way it works. Let's allow it right now to work through us right now. And I'm going to read this. It's written in the first person, but as I read it, know it for yourself, know it to be your truth, and feel it all the way in a way maybe you've never felt it before. If you feel like it, you can close your eyes during this treatment and know it. The gifts of God are mine today. It is life's good pleasure to give me the kingdom of heaven, harmony and abundance. Today, life opens to me the blessings of infinite and eternal treasure, inviting me to dip deeply into it. As I believe in my heart, so it is done unto me in all things. As I ask, so do I receive, a full measure unto my faith, pressed down and running over. These and other divine promises and assurances sing in me. The still small voice within me reminds me that all that the Father hath is mine. Today, I listen deeply to that still small voice, and I believe its promises. Right now, I fear nothing, neither lack, limitation, disappointment, nor distress of any kind, for is not life always with me? What caused the appearance of any kind of lack in my life anyway? Simply my fear, or my belief that life could forsake me. But I do not believe that now, and it no longer matters to me what is the appearance of today or what has gone on before today. Why? Because today is new, and I am newly awakened in it, and I believe with dauntless faith that my good, in full measure, comes to me from God today. I now believe that it is indeed life's good pleasure to give me its bounty, and I know that as I ask without question or limit, I am ready to receive. I allow the one mind, that one limitless mind, to right now work through me as me, and I am in complete harmony with it. The gifts of God are mine today. And together we say, and so it is.